Hello again. I'm Mary Beth Nolde, the current worship arts team leader for the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Waynesboro. Welcome to our virtual service today. We are a welcoming fellowship for the LGBTQ community members and hope to be back to in-person services very soon. Today's topic will be the God you don't believe in, which will explore the fluidity of belief, the redefinition of belief, the rejection of belief, and the pushing of commitments to a higher level than belief as part of the human experience. As I was thinking about this topic and what I would write about it, from my own personal experience surrounding it came the following thoughts. I began my faith journey from childhood as a longtime member of a mainstream faith community and totally embraced that faith path as I entered adulthood. Though I had lots of questions regarding that faith, I explored those questions in various forms throughout my life. Often I was left with more questions than answers, or repeated phrases and statements that did not satisfy my questions. As I matured in my belief set, I became much more liberal in my thinking and more accepting of areas of the human experience that were not supported by my lifelong faith community. But I believed at that time that my continued presence in that lifelong faith community would help others think more liberally and less dogmatically. I raised my children in their early years as believers, but also to question those beliefs and search for answers. In watching my children struggle with their own faith journeys, I realized that my thinking and my faith experience were parting ways. I did not participate in a faith community for several years. Then I discovered, quite by accident, this current faith community of people who are comfortable questioning dogmatic views, exploring them, going with them wherever that exploration took them, and I knew I was home. I had found my faith community where my more liberal view of the God entity was acceptable and I could be me. And while I still refer to God as God because use of the term makes me feel good, I no longer look at that as the center of my belief, but as a part of my beliefs. That is a freeing concept. I hope you can explore your beliefs here today. See where this exploration takes you and follow it with confidence that what you believe is your truth. As we do each Sunday, we will light the chalice that begins our journey today with the following words. A Symbol of Learning and Love by Elizabeth Harding. We Unitarian Universalists don't drink from our chalice. Instead, we use it to hold the flame. The circle of the chalice helps keep the fire small. The flame doesn't blind us. It doesn't burn us. It gives us light so that we can see all the different things in the universe, even the invisible ones. Because the Unitarian Universalist flame is a light of learning. The flaming chalice is a symbol of learning and love. It's our symbol, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism.
Our words of prayer are by Lynn Cox. Spirit of life, who draws us together in a web of holy relationships, make your presence known with us and in us and among us. Remind us that we are not alone in history. Ignite us with the courage of the living tradition. Remind us that we are not alone in entering the future. Anchor us with patience and perseverance. Remind us that we are not alone in our times of grief and pain. Comfort us with your Spirit, manifest in human hands and voices. Remind us that we are not alone in joy and wonder either. Inspire us to honor and extend the beauty we find in the world. Divine music of the universe, let our hearts beat in diverse and harmonious rhythms, cooperating with an everlasting dance of love. May we move with the rhythms of peace. May we move with the rhythms of compassion. May we move with the rhythms of justice. Source of stars and planets and water and land, open our hearts to all our neighbors. Open our souls to a renewal of faith. Open our hands to join together in the work ahead. So be it. Blessed be. Amen. As each week when we come together, we know that in our community, in our congregation, there are joys and sorrows among us. They remain unspoken today, but we know that they include medical issues, operations, as well as the things that are good and going well in our lives. Let us hold these all in our hearts together in a time of silence.
Who Am I Not to Be Blessed by Chris Jimerson. In moonlit shadows at the edge of night-darkened oak trees, I see it. Across sunny pathways in the buzzing of insects, amongst the flowering forest greenery, I hear it. From the touch of one's loved, the embraces of those gone before me, I feel it. In the poems I love dearly, the songs that speak to my heart, the sculpture that catches my imagination, I sense it. It is in the fire of distant suns, the cool drip of waters, the slight chill in the breeze, the laughter of children, no matter what their age, old and young, grown and still small. It is the breath of life, the stardust of souls, the magic of remembrance. Who am I not to surrender to it in gratitude? Who am I not to be blessed?
Please join me in singing hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way. On the road from greed to giving, you can change the world with your love. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. You are like no other being. What you can give, no other can give. To the future of our precious children, to the future of the world where we live. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way. On the road from greed to giving, you can change the world with your love.
Grounded Someplace Deeper by Mark Ward. Reason is an important tool, sure, an essential arbiter of truth claims about the world. But religion is grounded someplace deeper, where we experience the joy of living and are connected intimately with all that is. Religion is an entirely human experience, but one that we can get in touch with using some pathway other than intellectual argument. In religion, we seek to address not just what is, but also what we hope for and what we dedicate ourselves to. We rely on it to navigate the shoals of love and grief, compassion and estrangement, gratitude and disappointment, and mystery and wonder. As the late Reverend David Bumbaugh suggested, religion deserves reverence. It requires a vocabulary and a theology. This theology demands no intervention of unearthly forces, but invites us to open ourselves to different ways of living and learning. It considers the human a niche in the vast intertwined plenitude of being. And just what is our niche? We are fragile, fallible sorts for whom just being is a blessing and love is a pole star.
Sometimes I know the topic I want to address in a service month in advance, and when it happens that way, it feels nice knowing well in advance that things are settled and I know what I'm going to talk about. But there are other times when I don't really know until I spend some time with a blank page in front of me. And this is that latter sort. As I was bouncing back and forth between topics that I might reflect on today, one that kept coming up for me was the question that I've talked to you about before. When I was at the stage in my personal development where it felt more important to state what I did not believe than it was to define more clearly what I stood for, I encountered some people from various religious traditions who countered my statements of disbelief with a question that didn't set very well with me. For some, it seemed to be merely arrogant dismissal of a different perspective from theirs. But for others, the question seemed more generously and kindly intended. The question, actually worded as a demand, was, "Tell me about the God you don't believe in. Chances are I don't believe in that God either." The title of this reflection then is "The God You Don't Believe In." If we were in person for this service, I would ask you to call out from your seats things you do not believe about God, or about the universe, or about what is ultimate, whatever word we choose to use for something beyond and bigger. And if I did that, you all would have a pretty long list together, all of you, pretty long list of the things that ain't God to you because, like me, you had things that you were told were so that just did not compute for you, or things that were out and out offensive to your psyche or your soul. And of course, it is not unusual for such a list to include characteristics that your parents or religious education teachers or neighborhood kids told you defined that basic concept of being that in our Christian-dominated society has often been labeled God. Right off the bat, there's a string of words or concepts that were imposed on many of us that, to begin with, were perhaps merely incomprehensible. But the more we understood the words, the less connected they seemed for several of us, maybe many of us. Disconnected from what we observed, disconnected from the moral universe that we could in any way divine or recognize. Words like omniscient, all-knowing, omnipotent, all-powerful, and omnibenevolent, supremely good. Many of us grew up being taught that God was masculine, a God who hands out deeds to real estate, a God who picks sides in wars and sporting events, a person with attributes such as jealousy and wrath, a being demanding obedience and submission, a deity willing to massacre and even all but annihilate those who displeased the divine person. Some of us were taught that the depictions of God in various Bible stories had to be taken literally, although literally was always figurative as well within a particular tradition rather than purely text-based. These images are highly present in our civilization as expressions of a certain conservative variety of Christianity, which has dominated in the past, even though it is losing steam and losing power in our contemporary nation. And these were understandings of the source of being that many of us couldn't take in the form they were presented to us. Many of us honed our philosophies beginning with that conundrum of, if God is all-powerful and all-knowing, how could it be possible for such a God to be supremely good or all-loving, given what we know about human history? It did not compute. We'd learned enough about the world that we held any such all-powerful, all-knowing being responsible for the evil they failed to prevent or to remedy. The God many of us do not believe in now, or explicitly did not believe in at some particular past point in our lives, often is or was a God who was not presented in ways that gave evidence of love and justice, or of using power for the good of all humanity and of all nature. Too much of the time, we just had a higher ethical standard than the way so much of the religion around us presented God as having. There are those who do not believe in a personal God, yet may sometimes still hold the concept of an impersonal power meaningful. Others do not believe in a God who contravenes the order of the universe or who answers special requests of some people but not others. Some do not believe in a God that saves or damns this one or that one differently, or a God whose being and action fall under the umbrella of the word supernatural. Others among us find no value whatsoever in using that word, that particular word, God, because in their experience of it, it is a word that is owned, so to speak, and used by people who use it to do harm to others. And there are those who did not grow up in a context dominated by these kinds of Christian understandings, and so for them, the word, the concept, has no particular power for good or ill. If we were together today in our fellowship hall, I have no doubt that there would also be other conceptualizations of God or of the divine or of the universe that some among us do not believe, do not accept, do not find meaningful, and may find personally offensive. Can we honestly say that the God you don't believe in, I don't believe in either? We probably have plenty of overlap between what atheists and theists among us don't believe in. The idea of a punishing universe or an annihilating God, for example, runs completely contrary, completely against the grain of Unitarian Universalist perspectives. But can we honestly say that none of us believe what others among us do not believe about God or the divine or the universe or the ultimate? Probably not. And the expectation that that would be the case runs counter to the value we place on pluralism in a context that is not about beliefs per se, but about our values and commitments. There are definitely among us those who do not believe that the divine grants favors or answers requests. Yet there are also those who believe that if we put out to the universe our need, that the universe is listening or observing and sends or provides in some way what we need. The two perspectives are not in unison, but they do not need to be. There are among us those who believe in a created universe, that is, in some sense, coming out of a creating power. And others among us find no benefit, and maybe some offense, in such an idea, preferring a more fully scientific approach, where the idea of an unmoved mover stands in contrast to the last couple of hundreds of years of theory and observation. What we can say with some certainty is that anything we might say about what is ultimate is speculative. No less so when traditional and passed through the body of the devout in the various traditions than when based on newer forms and styles of exploration and explanation. We shore up fragments against our ruin, to speak in words borrowed from T.S. Eliot. We believe this and we don't believe that. We don't believe this other that and believe this other this. And all our combinations have the possibility, if we will let them, of moving us toward our shared values and commitments to human progress and equity, to social betterment and caring for the least of these among us, of building a new way, a way out of no way, a just and equitable way for the good of us all. And in the words of the bylaws of our association, grateful for the religious pluralism which enriches and ennobles our faith, we are inspired to deepen our understanding and expand our vision. Difference is inevitable. Difference enriches us individually and as a community. Difference is good. Let us celebrate it whether or not the same divine parameters one does not believe, the rest of us also do not believe. In benediction, I would like to offer a poem, Hackett Avenue, written by John Cady. And if you would like to look it up later, it's Hackett, Hackett, Avenue. And John Cady's last name is spelled Koethe. Hackett Avenue by John Cady. I used to like connections, leaves floating on the water, like faces floating on the surface of a dream. On the surface of a swimming pool, once the Holocaust was complete. And then I passed through stages of belief and unbelief, desire and restraint. I found myself repeating certain themes ad interim until they began to seem quaint. And I began to feel myself a victim of coincidence, inhabiting a film whose real title was my name, inhabiting a realm of fabulous constructions made entirely of words, all words I should have known and should have connected until they meant whatever I might mean. But they're just fragments, really, no more than that. A coast away and then across an ocean 50 years away, I felt an ashen figure gliding through the leaves. Bewitchment of intelligence by leaves. a body floating, clothed, a not so old philosopher dying in his bed. At least I thought I felt those things. But then the line went dead, and I was back here in the cave, another ghost inhabiting the fourth part of the soul, and waiting and still waiting for the sun to come up. Tell them I've had a wonderful life. Tell Mr. DeMille I'm ready for my close-up. Amen. Blessed be, and vive la différence.